there, Matt Scratch here with my mom's 2004 PT Cruiser. So we're just going to do a quick oil change here, and I'm going to show you all the steps, step by step. If you've never changed oil before in a car, that's okay, you've found the right video. I'm going to show you every step and every detail to successfully change the oil in your PT Cruiser. So once you pop the interior release in the driver's footwell there's just a secondary catch handle right here. You just push it that way, lift your hood up, put your prop rod in. Make sure you don't forget that later. A lot of people try to close the hood with that in and they damage their hood and their prop rod. Here's the heart of the beast, the 2.4 liter dual overhead cam 4-cylinder here. They did have a 2.4 liter turbo in the PT Cruiser as well. If you own one of the turbo models, it's going to be pretty much the same procedure as I show you here. The only real difference is going to be the oil capacity, so you can look that up in your owner's manual. And of course the oil filter will be different. Other than that, it's pretty much the same, so don't worry if you have a turbo. This video should still help you out. That's your oil fill cap, and I run 530 in these. I run this Castrol GTX 530, just a conventional, and seems to work really good. They have a synthetic blend you can get of this oil as well, or you can go with the full synthetic. And if you're wondering what the differences between all that is, I have an entire video dedicated to this subject. Please check out the link in the description. So normally you want to run the engine right before the oil change, get it up to temperature. This will loosen up all the sludge in your engine, and then when you drain out your dirty oil, everything will drain out with it. Now, one safety precaution, take your keys out of the ignition before starting the oil change, because if you get all your oil drained out and for some reason somebody comes and starts the car, it's going to ruin the engine. So just make sure you do that, and if you have a command start or anything, just put the keys somewhere where nobody's going to be messing with them. Okay, you'll have to excuse, I got a bit of a mess around here, so it's hard to get a real good angle, but I got to jack the car up, and you can use the factory jacking location, which is just the lip under the rocker panel there, right under there. You can look in your owner's manual, but you'd want to use your factory jack if you're doing that. I'm just using my floor jack, and what I do is I come right down there under the subframe where the control arm bolt goes through it, and I jack right there. So I'm just going to jack that up. And you don't have to lift it up that high, just high enough to get under. Also, make sure you take the time to put an additional blocking point, a jack stand or a wood block or something under the car before you climb under there. Okay, so I got my oil drain pan there. It's already got a little bit of oil in it, but that's okay. And we'll slide that under. Okay, so here we are just under the front of the car, a bit to the right side is the oil pan here. This is the oil filter. And this is the drain plug that you have to take out. So this is a 13 millimeter drain plug. That is, unless somebody's gone ahead and damaged it in the past. They may have put an oversized one in it to repair that. So if it's bigger, that's why, but the factory size is 13. So you can actually move your drain pan out of the way while you're doing this, just while you're breaking it loose, because actually nothing's going to come out at first. It doesn't really matter if you use a wrench or a ratchet or what you use, as long as you don't over tighten it when you put it back on. So I'm just going to give a couple good thumps on my ratchet here just to break it loose. There we go. Now we'll slide the drain pan back in. Try and get your hand out of the way so you don't get oil on it. Or better yet, wear gloves. Now you see how the oil shoots out quite a ways, so you want to have the drain pan to the side of, like that way of the where it's draining out. So, and then as it comes down, it'll come almost straight down. It might even pour back a bit, so you also want to make sure that if you walk away, it's going to keep draining into the drain pan. Just pay attention to that. Okay, now while that's dripping out, and I like to go until it's almost nothing coming out, because that's where your sludge is in the last little bit of oil that comes out. So now I'm going to come in with a nice clean rag and just wipe my old oil filter off, because I don't want any contaminants getting into the housing here when I take it off. So wipe off all the way around it. And then there's a bunch of different styles of wrenches you can use, but this is the common one, and that's what I like to use. And it works good on this application because it's easy access. So you just put that on there, go like that. It shouldn't be that tight because you're only supposed to hand tighten these. There we go. Now what you want to do is leave this to drain out, and then you can recycle them. You can see them actually using a Motorcraft filter. They make good filters and they sell them in a size that fits the PT Cruiser, so that's what I use. Wix is another good brand, or the Napa Gold ones are actually made by Wix. Or of course you can go to your Dodge dealer and get a Mopar filter, will work just fine as well. Now you want to go around this surface and wipe it off really clean, because that's where your new oil filter is going to seal. Sometimes different brands of filters have the seal in a slightly different spot too, so you want to really make sure with this step. I do apologize, I have to do the next couple minutes as a voiceover. I lost some of the audio. You can see I'm just checking in the threads actually, because when they cut the threads on the filters, sometimes they don't get all the metal filings cleaned out. So I just like to go and check them and wipe them out. This one had a few filings in it. Then I fill it with oil to pre-lube the filter. This is a good idea so that your engine gets oil pressure sooner on startup. And I just take a little dab of oil and run around the gasket as well, so that the gasket doesn't stick when you thread the filter on. Some people do put the filters on empty. I don't recommend it personally, because your engine's just running that much longer without oil pressure while it's filling the filter. So I pre-lube them like this. Okay, we're just heading under the car again with the new filter here. Be really careful not to get any dirt dropping into the filter as you're sliding under the car. And then just make sure you get the filter started squarely and you're not cross-threading it. They don't fit all that snug, so if it's not threading on nice, just back it off, give it a half a spin backwards, and then try again. Just hand tighten the filter down as tight as you can get by hand. And then wipe it all off really good. Make sure there's no oil on it, that way you'll be able to tell after the initial startup if there's any leaks. So we're just going to go ahead and put that drain plug back in. You want to tighten that down to about 18 foot-pounds, or about how you would tighten a spark plug if you don't have a torque wrench. Just like a nice firm pull on a 3/8 ratchet. Don't overdo it, it's just an aluminum. Okay, we got our drain plug tight and we've got our new filter installed. So it's time to add oil now. Just make sure your oil cap's clean before you go taking it off, so you're not dropping any debris down inside the engine. And then just set that on your power steering cap there. And there's a little lip around where the cap is. Sometimes there's dirt in there and debris, so just make sure you wipe that out. If there's a bunch of sand and grit in there, what I like to do is just I'll wipe the bottom of the oil cap or whatever and get some oil on the rag I'm using, and then when you wipe that debris it will stick to the rag and not fall down inside the engine. Your fluid capacities can be found in your owner's manual on page 290, and you can see it's 4.8 liters. That's including the filter, or 5 quarts. Of course, you can grab a funnel if needed. I think I'm good, so I'm just going to pour it directly in. So we'll just add the full capacity here, and then we'll have to start the car before we can get an accurate oil reading, because it needs to fill up the filter. The filter's not completely full yet. So once it pumps that full and obtains oil pressure, and we've checked for leaks, then we'll let the car sit for a minute, let all the oil settle back down to the base, and then we'll check the oil level to confirm it. The oil cap has a ratcheting mechanism in it to ensure it's properly sealed, so make sure you turn it all the way till it clicks. So our oil change is just about complete here, guys. Now what you want to do is just start the car for a minute, because that oil filter's still got to completely fill up, and you also want to check for leaks. So I'm just going to key on the car here, and over here you can see there's an oil pressure light right there. You want to make sure that goes out fairly quickly after it starts. It normally will take about 15 to 20 seconds. So we'll see here. There we go. So that means we have oil pressure. That's good. Now we'll go outside the car and we'll just check underneath. You want to check, make sure that the oil filter's not leaking or anything else, and that there's no bad noises or anything like that. And if not, you'd shut the car off and then let it sit for a few minutes for all the oil to run back down to the base, and then you can check and get an accurate oil reading. So now you just want to come down underneath the car, and you can see everything's still clean and dry, so we're good here. Okay, and now we can go ahead and take our jack out, and jack stand. I didn't use one, I like to live dangerously. And now lastly, after the car's sat for a few minutes since running, after the oil change here, we're just going to check the oil. The reason you let it sit is for the oil to run back down to the base, so you have an accurate reading. So same thing, if there's a bunch of dirt around your dipstick, you want to clean that before you pull it out. You wipe it off really clean and dry. And you can see it's right there, right on the full mark. So if you're over full by a little bit, like a 1/4 inch or something, it's not a big deal. If you get too far over full, what can happen is it can start to wrap around the crankshaft, like the oil gets caught around the spinning crankshaft, and then it will cause foaming in there, and that's bad. That can cause pressure in your base and blow out oil seals and things like that. So if you end up and it's way over full, you want to drain a little back out. One last thing, you can see I've added a new masking tape tag here with the current mileage and the current date. That's important to track when your oil change was last done. I hope you found the video helpful. Thanks for watching Matt's Garage. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have yourself a great day. And stay tuned for plenty more PT Cruiser content.